All right, and welcome back to another session. As we were discussing before, as we have mentioned before in the previous videos, we are going to be having a little series of videos talking about the process of stress. And so the last few sessions that we have talked about, we have mentioned how stress affects our health. It's going to affect our health. And how when we are not managing stress well, that will lead to maladaptation. Or in other words, we will try to cope with the stress in a way that's actually going to bring more harm to us. It might lead to some, short-term relief, some short-term reduction in the stress levels, but especially in the long term, it's going to negatively affect our mental and physical health. And so, knowing all of this, Dad, the thing we want to talk about today is how do we reverse this? How do we go from having all this stress and perhaps even having addictive behaviors because of it to having a better mental health?
Well, you nail it, no? In terms of mental health, seems to be like the key. And as you review our previous episodes, there is another thing that is just so critical. We do the opposite of what's going to help. And this is in all of us. No, if we are under psychological stress, we don't do what it really helps. Okay, but you know what? The thing is, we know how to do it right. I mean, let's read an example. Okay, let's say you tell me that it's time for me to start learning to drive. Okay, now of course it's new to you, so. Because it's new to you, for your mind and the physiological part of your mind, which is your brain, being exposed to driving is going to bring stress. And that's not bad, because we talked in the previous episode that stress is good. But the problem is psychological stress. So at the moment that you start driving, let's say I say, okay, let's go out of the parking lot, or let's go to the parking lot. And then it's going to be agitation. It's going to be some level of stress. And that is actually it's great because, that condition, which has to do with chemicals, it lays the ground for learning. So something you haven't done in the past. So now your brain has to really calculate space, speed, movement, no? And at the same time, that is, your body needs to really integrate information through, putting moving your leg into the brake when it's needed, and have the visual, panoramic, and also tunnel vision through the process of learning. So it's new. So that's why this agitation happens to us. But it's interesting because we feel the agitation and we do it. And that never gets you to have chronic stress. Okay? What it does is you go out there, you feel uncomfortable, you make the mistakes. See, your brain still doesn't know how to do this. But then as you practice, what's going to happen after a few days? Is there going to be any agitation in the same place where you've been driving? Of course not. Okay, so now that you have learned, the stress is not needed. Okay, unless I say, okay, Sam, we already drove through the parking lot, we drove through the neighborhood street, now let's go to the highway. Now it's new. Okay, you probably remember that, no?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, what happens if I take you to the highway? Now agitation is new. Now your brain has to calculate speed, how to get into the highway, get out of the highway, calculate all these other movements that are totally different than when it happens when you're driving around the neighborhood or when you go into the parking lot. So again, stress. But you don't get sick, you don't get chronic stress. Okay, that condition, it helps you to learn. So your brain starts really understanding and placing information that builds a circuitry for learning. But you never, kind of feel sick about it. You may feel uncomfortable for a few minutes, 15 minutes. Every movement is new, a new street, a new type of set up on the way how the highway is. But can you tell that you have chronic stress because of driving? Because you learn how to drive. No, nobody has. So we know how to do this. We really know how to cope properly. The coping is that you don't run away. No, you're in the driver's seat. You don't just say, "I'm sorry, I'm gonna jump from the car because I don't want this agitation." No, you just stay there. No, and you just can deal with that. So as you stay, you don't run. You don't just park on the side and you say, "I gotta drink a glass of alcohol to feel better because I feel terrible." No, or you don't go and say, "I'm gonna have to play poker right now because it was a terrible moment for 10 minutes." You don't do that. Okay, and it's because you don't do that. You are coping properly. Okay, you coping properly. You hold that wheel. You speed when you need it. You push the brake when you need it, and then finally you get home and you say, "Oh, this was crazy, but great." So the next time you go and drive, and as you practice, it's so easy. No, you just go in, go back home safe. No, unless some crazy ideas of yours comes that you want to speed up on or cross, or pass the stop sign. No, then it's a problem. So, but in regard to this coping, coping it has to do with staying the wheel. Okay, don't walk away, don't run from. Okay, it means that you do what it really will help you, because just like driving, no, once you are facing that, eventually, what happened with the stress? You don't feel stress. Do you feel stress driving after you've been there for 3 or 4 or 5 times in the highway?
I mean, if anything, it's very little.
Yeah, unless it's snow heavy or something, different, a big, huge, humongous truck in front of you, and then you kind of have again a little agitation because you got to learn how to deal with this new experience. So life is going to give us a lot of learning experience, and I want to bring this up and bring an example. Imagine life like a funnel, and is a wider part of the funnel. Okay, and then the end, which is narrow, on the end of the funnel, that is your brain and your mind. Okay, so you have limited information. So, but life and the world has a amount of information. Okay, now I want to grow. I want to have a better relationship. I want to improve my business. I want to have health. See, I'm ignorant about many things. Okay, even as a father, I just jump in, no instruction book. Even if I have one, every kid is different, no? So you jump in there, very ignorant. So with this limited information, so your brain and your mind has just a tip of the funnel, and life is expand, and it's so much. So now you live in this life is designed to help you. So what is going to happen? Now I need more information from the camp, real information. No. So how am I going to have more? So my ability to see expanded. I have to have, I have to be facing new experience, just like driving. No, this time is I'm a father, okay, and now my second kid is not the same as the first kid. Okay, I thought I knew about it, and now it happened that the second kid he has a different temper and different way to handle things, different likes, dislikes, and it will give me an opportunity to learn more. Okay, and then I marry now. Man, I marry with this person that has a history, has so many different things that are not exactly like a mom. I live in a place. I was in a house. I got different friends. I went to different schools. I thought different. So now we come together, and she becomes, just this part, this extended amount of opportunities that the funnel, on the wider part of the funnel, is going to provide. So the challenges, it turns the stress mechanism. because it's new and I have to know. And the only way how I really going to grasp into that information, so I don't, is by agitation. Because if I think this is the way, this is the only way to do the bed, or this is the only way to do things, and this opinion is perfect, okay? And it comes here another person, which is my wife or my kid, my newborn kid that has a different ideas and have different opinions, and it will enrich my life if I really understand that this decision that the other person makes or these other challenges that come across will create an opportunity for growth. So now we understand about the process. Now let's say what we can do. Okay. And now this is going to be a 2 parts episode in what to do with stress. Number one, okay, recognize if it's any symptoms that are physical that are being produced by stress. And I will tell you this is mostly general. There's so many different ones, but this is typical. Okay. Not everybody has the same type of symptoms. It varies from person to person. It could be tension on your neck. If it's tension here, okay, or in your shoulder, that you are going through stress. That's good when it's something new, no? It's not bad. But if this is happening often, that means that there is, if it happens for the same thing, then there's a problem. If it happens the first time that I'm in the highway, it's good. So that tension, it helps. That indicates that there are chemicals that are really producing a change in the biology of my brain and my body so the learning can be effective. Okay. But if every time I go to drive in the same highway, I feel the tension, there is a problem. That's chronic stress. Now, the first time that my wife says something that is different to my opinion, there's going to be tension. That's normal. But if every time she says the same thing or is something related to the same and it's tension, that's chronic stress. So I'm going through chronic stress. So be aware and be sure that you understand these symptoms. Another symptom that chronic stress is light headaches. If I experience light headaches, every so often, not every day necessarily, okay, but every so often, there is a sign that is something that probably is being initiated by this psychological stress. Another thing is pain in the lower back, my muscles in the lower back. Okay, unless I have an accident, no, then I have to deal with it. So, or inflammation. I have inflammation somewhere in my intestines are inflamed here and there. No, it doesn't have to be chronic, but it's when I'm eating. Another thing is some behaviors. I don't feel appetite. I don't feel to eat breakfast. No hungry. And it's time to eat. And not just skip meals. That's a sign that you having some dysfunction in the production of hormones that produce appetite, which is related to excess cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Or I'm so hungry, I want to eat a lot. Okay, I'm already full, but I have this craving for things. Okay, or I have craving for sugar or craving for fried things. Okay, and that's a sign, no? So, don't pass judgment on you. They just make a note. Okay, don't judge because you don't want to label yourself. Oh, I am that. No, you're not that. This is just what's happening as a reaction to your physical body. And you have to be smart enough to really understand. Another thing, lack of energy. You start noticing that at certain times of the day, the energy is lower. Or you're not tired and it's time to go to bed and you just are full awake. Okay. Maybe it's an excess adrenaline through the day or you don't sleep right away. You go to bed and it takes time or you wake up in the middle of the night, this is pretty much, in general. But then from that point, any other sickness that's already there, they is related to all these conditions that eventually produce alteration in the sequence or the way how we produce proteins. And then there's a sickness, diabetes, And of course, when you see, that it start growing your tummy, some fat start building around your tummy on the sides. Yeah, it's a metabolic issue that's been happening now. Or there's other signs, the imbalance in the production of hormones, or you get so rapidly in infections, continued infections, that is related to that. So this is the first part, understanding the physiology. Okay, and then we're going to continue on the same, on the next, episode, and we're going to talk about how we deal with all these things. Okay, so Ulysses, I'm going to let you do the final comments before we go into the next episode.
Okay. So I guess just one thing I want to point out as we wrap up is I love the analogy with driving, and how you mentioned how when you're learning how to drive, yeah, you're going to have that stress, but you don't take your hands off the wheel. And I think that's actually a good, and I don't know if you were trying to make an analogy or not, but I think that's actually a good analogy for any time we have, we're experiencing something new, we're having moments that are of stress. We can't, like you said, abandon the car. We can't just jump out of the car. We have to keep our hands on the wheel, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to get through it and learn and grow. We can't just leave the car.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. So if you have, let's say you're married, no doubt that your spouse is going to be having different opinions. It's going to be some conflict. And when they come, it's going to be stress. And it's like driving a car. You're not going to just turn your back to your spouse and not deal with the conflict. Or, if you're driving and let's say you are scared in the car, no, and you start fighting your car and hitting in the wheel and kicking the car, you don't do that. So, yeah, definitely it is what I was intending. So that analogy, is appropriate for anything. You want to improve your business, there's going to be some challenges. You have kids, hey, they're going to help you through challenges. You need to learn how to be a father. You can't just have a kid that is just behave as a saint. That there's no growth. Okay, that little kid is going to be making mistakes. Is going to poop a lot. Okay, it's going to be, they're so cute and they're amazing, but they're going to be making decisions that are so crazy as they grow. But that's part of the learning. No, see, our life is intended to help, to help us to improve. You go to a new job. How are you going to grow if everything is laid down to you? Okay, no challenges. If that never happens, you're never going to grow. Nothing incredible will happen to you. We walk away, unfortunately, when these agitations happen through stress, because we probably are doing the foolish thing. No, abandon the car in the middle of the highway, or just put it on the side and say, I don't want this car anymore. It's just, you're going to be by yourself in the highway, no? Maybe walking on the sun, and it's going to cause you towing the car. And maybe when you get home, your wife is going to be upset with you because you left the car abandoned, or your father.